That was the one thing we discussed beforehand. If he would admit to us what he told Cindy Short, that he found allegedly the 3 phones on the night, baby Lisa went missing, that would be a tantamount to an admission. Well, here's how that went in part. Now, did you have those phones? Those, because we understand that you told a lawyer, Cindy Short, that you found those phones.
I'm Ginger, whatever she wanted me here. I didn't tell her I found those phones. I said I found phones that night, but I didn't find them.
No, nothing. Oh, why?
It's because she's asked me a million questions, and I didn't want to just make her happy, whatever.
So the listening audience knows one of the things he did there, Phil, which you've called attention to in the past, it can be part of a cluster of deception, is hands above the midline. He
Mhm.
started to move his hands up like, oh, she did this, she did this. And you've told me in the past, and I know from your book, Spy the Lie, which everyone should read, when you're lying, the nervous energy has to shoot out of you somehow, whether it's your leg crossed and foot clicking, or you start to rock, but hands above the midline, touching your nose, touching your head, moving around, can be part of a deception cluster. So, what did you make of the phone's answer?
Exactly where you were going, Megan. Again, it represents a very significant spike in his anxiety level here. And it's interesting, why on earth would someone who's telling the truth need to admit that while they weren't, didn't say they had taken the phones that were missing, but they found other phones on that particular night by coincidence, so to speak? Who in their right mind would do that if you're telling the truth? Because and what he recognizes is that by saying that he even had phones, that he did find phones that night, is almost as equally incriminating as the fact that he had the phones that were missing. It's clearly one and the same. So that's what led him to say, in my opinion, what led him to say, oh, I was just lying to her at that particular time.
I was surprised that immediately he knew who Cindy Short was and he knew about the phone conversation. He didn't stutter like, "What? Huh? Oh,
Well,
no, it's nonsense."
if you think about it for that one moment, let's postulate that he is guilty. Let's assume, let's just for argument's sake say he's guilty. Every breath, every moment is burned in his brain, right? And to me, this question of the phones is one of the most pivotal points made, because if he found that phone, right? If he had the phone, that tells us he was in the house. I mean, it tells me he was in the house and he called Megyn Wright. And that's why he was going back and forth. Is it advantageous for me to say I found the phones? Or, oh no, I was just lying?
He figured out to say he has the phones suggests he had the baby, and he knew he didn't want us going there. But this, like Phil, this was the most obvious lie, I would say, even to the casual observer without the Phil Houston training, because why would a guy sitting in jail talking to a lawyer make up a lie about having phones when he didn't have phones, quote, to make her happy?
I think one of the reasons he might have been doing that as well is that between that night and today, or the day that you're interviewing him, he has probably told someone, one or two people, that he did find phones that night, and then realized that when you ask him the question, and I need to come up with a reason as to why I had phones, or maybe someone saw him with phones that night.
And that Megyn Wright was dialed.
Yes.
Megyn Wright's number was dialed. He
Yep,
had to make it, in my opinion, he had to make a story. Oh, I found the phones. And then he realized it's not his best interest to say he had, oh, I didn't have the phones.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That was his weakest part, because there were other moments where I thought, okay, you know what? He's doing better here. And one of those moments was when he tried to say he and Megyn Wright broke up and he never saw her. And I said, you didn't stalk her at all, or however I phrased it. You know, you didn't show up at her house. And he owned that one right away.
I pulled up on the front lawn in a stolen van one time, but I didn't talk to her.
So what was your reaction to that, Phil? Because he could have said, no, I never did. But he kind of owned her story of driving the truck onto her property and scaring her a little.
I think, Megan, what he's trying to do there, going back to the concept of convincing statements or persuasion behavior, what he's trying to do is he's trying to say, hey, if I did something wrong, I'm more than willing to step up and admit it. And often that convinces people who aren't really attuned to the behavior and the reality of the situation, and they buy into it. And that's what he's hoping would happen here.
You don't go out and buy a life jacket when the boat is sinking, and you don't buy gold when the economy has already collapsed. Clearly, others are heeding this advice as gold hit all-time highs already this year. It's not too late for you, too, and you could have Birch Gold help you diversify into physical gold. Birch Gold specializes in helping you convert an existing IRA or 401k in whole or in part into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, and for no money out of pocket. One recent 5-star review said Birch Gold was, quote, knowledgeable, helpful, non-pressure. Get your free info kit on gold by texting the letters MK to the number 989898. There is no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, text MK to 989898 and let the experts at Birch Gold help you secure your future today with gold. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.